What is going on, everybody? It is July, and that means training camp and your fantasy football drafts are right around the corner with August coming up. So I'm here to bring you 12 of my favorite league-winning options to consider for your drafts for this season. Before we get into the picks, let's talk about what a league winner is, other than the obvious of a player being on a championship roster. Last year, we saw a couple of guys really float to the top of that, guys like Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Sam Laporta, guys who were undrafted. But that's not all that makes up a league winner. There are plenty of early round and mid-round league winners. So for that being the case, we're going to have three different categories: early, mid-round, and late-round winners that we think that can help you win your league. But before we do that, let's talk about some guys that showed up last year. At the top of the board, we had CeeDee Lamb and Christian McCaffrey in over 30% of winning teams. CeeDee Lamb was over on ESPN, Christian McCaffrey at 30.5 over on Yahoo. Some other names: Amon-Ra St. Brown at 25%. Those three that I mentioned, Kyron Williams, Sam Laporta, Puka Nacua, all above 21%. Raheem Mostert over on Yahoo, another late round pick, 22%. And rounding out the list of guys around 15 to 20%, Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, Zamir White, and lastly, Tyreek Hill. Before we get into that, let's talk about why you should be looking at some of our stuff here at RG, and let's talk about the premium product. So get ahead of your competition with the RG premium product. We've got an option for whatever level you're looking for, including a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That gives you a savings of $250 rather than buying it each month. If you're not a fan of commitment, you can get a month of RG Premium Combo for $120, and those that just want a test run can get a 3-day pass for $19.99. Check the links in the bio for more. Let's get into the picks now. Early round are going to be rounds 2 through 5. We're not going to talk much about the first round guys. Those are some pretty straightforward picks. There will be some league winners in the first round, but you don't need me to tell you that Christian McCaffrey and CeeDee Lamb are awesome plays. So early round picks will be 2nd through 5th round. Pick number 1, Devon Achane. Achane finishes RB24 last season while playing in just 11 games, but really it was technically 9 games, as in 2 of those games, due to inexperience and injury, he had 2 or less touches. And doing that, obviously an explosive player, over 8 yards per carry. Some reports are out there saying that he's going to be playing some slot wide receiver, adding to his elite upside in this elite offense in Miami throughout the backfield. But in general, he has plenty of upside just on the ground alone. Last year, Raheem Mostert ran as pure as he possibly could have, had 20-plus touchdowns, and didn't get banged up at all. Mostert typically a pretty injury-prone player, so if Devon Achane finds his way into that RB1 role at all in this Miami offense, he has RB1 upside for this season. Pick number 2, Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco was RB13 last year, but signs point to an even bigger season this year, as I'm expecting big things for him and this Kansas City offense. Jerick McKinnon still a free agent, no longer with the team as of now. And obviously, Kansas City did nothing to go out and bolster this running back room with the draft or free agents throughout the offseason. So that points to Isaiah Pacheco having a lot of trust and a lot of potential upside for volume in this Kansas City offense. Last year, 65% of snaps and had less than 40% of routes ran. He only had 50 targets last year, but 24 targets came in his last 5 games of the regular season. If that production and that volume continues for Isaiah Pacheco out of the backfield, he's going to have great dual threat upside, not only on the ground, but also through the air. Pick number 3, first wide receiver of the video, Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is a guy who was heavily touted the past couple of years, coming off of a Triple Crown season 2 or 3 years ago, and Puka Nacua stole the show last year. Now, I really think that this could be a spot where we're kicking ourselves for drafting Puka Nacua over Cooper Kupp. Kupp obviously battled injuries last year. He broke his ankle 2 years ago, and that kind of led over into some missed time in the training camp last season. Had some hamstring injuries that he was also dealing with. Reports say he's as healthy as he's been in a few years. So that tells me we're going to get a fully healthy Cooper Kupp, and potentially he can resurge right into that wide receiver 1 role. Last year, he accounted for just 1% fewer of the first rated target share compared to Puka Nacua, and he accounted for more of a touchdown share for the Rams. So again, I'm very high on Cooper Kupp this season, and I like him to take over that wide receiver 1 role again. Final pick of the early round plays, Anthony Richardson. Richardson was QB4 last year through the first month of the season before obviously getting injured and suffering the season-ending injury. Averaged over 23 fantasy points per game in that stint. Obviously, that's some immense upside, but I really don't think we saw all of what Richardson can do. He's in a really nice division here with matchups like Titans, Jags, and Texans twice a year, and he's going to have a lot of rushing production behind that elite offensive line. Now let's get into the mid-round plays here. These are around 6 through 10 or so, and I have 5 plays here that I really, really like for this season. Pick number 1, Jackson Smith and Jigba. JSN could easily be in line to take over Tyler Lockett, who's not only declining, but also aging in this Seattle offense. JSN played about 70% of snaps, 70% of his routes came from the slot, I should say, and he only accounted for 20% of the team's first read targets. That's a number that I think could easily improve to the mid-20s, maybe even the high 20s. Again, I love his role in the slot. I think he's going to continue to take over and earn targets in this Seattle offense. Second pick in the mid-round, Tyjae Spears. Now, Spears was an effective player last year. He finished as an RB2 last season. The Titans did lose Derrick Henry, and they went out and added Tony Pollard, but I still think Spears is going to have an absolute chokehold over this third down and receiving role. And I think he has a better chance of stealing away early down usage here from Tony Pollard in this Titans offense. Next pick, Zay Flowers. Flowers flashed at times last year. He did finish as wide receiver 27, but he had plenty of elite weeks last year for you. Obviously, Mark Andrews was out a majority of the season. He's going to be back this year, hopefully fully healthy. But you look at the splits with, say, Flowers and Mark Andrews on the field together, and while Flowers did average fewer fantasy points, his volume and his production really wasn't all that different. He actually averaged more yards, and he averaged just half a target fewer in games with Mark Andrews playing at least one snap. Obviously, this is another year in the Todd Monken offense. I'm expecting another elite season for Lamar Jackson. I think Zay Flowers is obviously going to benefit from that immensely. Pick number 4 in the mid-round, another guy I like a lot. Obviously need him to stay healthy, but this is a pick-to-win type play. If he gets hurt, it's obviously a huge bummer, but Christian Watson is a guy who, when he's on the field, he is productive. Last year, he essentially played 9 healthy games, and he accounted for 5 touchdowns and over 15 yards per reception last season. And obviously, when you're looking at a team that we're looking to take a big step forward, the Green Bay Packers are one of the top teams that I'm looking for in that category, as you're getting Jordan Love, who is the 5th player in this tier as a potential league-winning breakout quarterback. Jordan Love and Christian Watson, I think, are a great stack. Jordan Love, obviously this works hand in hand with Watson. You can draft both these guys in the mid to late rounds, and I'm extremely high on this Green Bay offense. Last season, from weeks 10 through 17, only one quarterback in the NFL had more fantasy points than Jordan Love, and that was Dak Prescott. So I really like these 2 young Green Bay Packers guys, and I like a couple of the other Packers options as well, but these are the 2 that stand out for me right now. All right, let's get into the late round picks. These are guys after round 10 or so, 3 names, and I think you're going to like them come the end of the year. Pick number 1, this is the riskiest pick in this group, in my opinion, but it's Jalen Tolbert. Obviously, people are going to be looking for this year's Puka Nacua. It's going to be very difficult to emulate that and replicate that kind of success from Puka, but Jalen Tolbert could be that guy for me. Brandon Cooks is old. He's getting older as we play, and obviously I think Jalen Tolbert is an emerging talent here in this Dallas offense. It's an elite passing offense, and obviously CeeDee Lamb is always going to be a big part of it. You have Jake Ferguson as well, but if there's a guy who can step in and potentially push for more volume outside of CeeDee Lamb, I do think it's Jalen Tolbert here, and I think he has some explosive playability. We didn't see him much last year, but in the times that we did, he averaged over 16 yards per reception. I like him being the downfield threat for this Dallas team this season. Pick number 2 in the late rounds, Ty Chandler. Chandler will be behind Aaron Jones in the depth chart, but I don't think that's necessarily going to exclude him from having his own particular role in this Minnesota offense. They have an improved, revamped offensive line here, who rank inside the top 10 in our projections here in terms of rushing efficiency. And this is a team that I think is going to want to run the ball. Obviously, they're going to have either J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold under center for the majority of the season. And I think that's going to benefit a guy like Ty Chandler, who they're going to look to hand the ball off to at times. I think Aaron Jones is going to be used out of the backfield a lot, and I would not be surprised to see Chandler have a pretty profound role in the early downs here for this Vikings offense. Final pick, it's going to be a popular one, but I agree with a lot of the public on this one. It's Jaden Daniels. He's the final quarterback here in the late rounds. He's obviously creeping up a little bit in terms of where you're drafting, whether it's underdog or ESPN, but I still think he's a guy with a lot of upside. He has some good weapons around him. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, who I think will have a better year. Luke McCaffrey is an exciting prospect there who they drafted in the 3rd round. But it all comes down to the dual threat upside, right? If Daniels is able to bring any kind of that rushing production from the college level up to the pros, he's going to have immense upside here for fantasy purposes. So those are my 12 picks. Hopefully you consider these guys in your draft, and hopefully you see me at the end of 2024 when they're helping you win your leagues. See you guys next time.